Welcome to the Stronger Than My Excuses show. This is one of a series of shows in the Future of Business Summit, Life on Mars. And our topic today is digital technology and hybrid workforces, life on future Earth. I'm your host, Brendan Rogers, founder of The Culture of Things, which is a culture and leadership team performance consultancy, podcast, and YouTube channel. Once again, thank you to Red Tree Theatre here in Tuggerah, who are hosting us today. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of our First Nations people, the Darkinjung people, and we appreciate this and respect them and their elders past, present, and emerging. As you can see, we have a fairly good-looking group of panellists lined up today, and I'll now introduce them. Just here is Michael Trimblett, who's the General Manager, Cybersecurity Expert and Certified Ethical Hacker for Loyal IT Solutions. Welcome, Michael. To Michael's left is Jackie Svedas. Jackie is the Stakeholder Engagement Manager, New South Wales for NBN Co. Welcome, Jackie. To my left here, you may be familiar with his face. He's on a few TV networks here and there. Geoff Quattromani, who is a digital transformation manager at Johnson & Johnson. Thanks for the fantastic products. And tech commentator for Sunrise, 2GB, 7 News and The Australian. Welcome, Geoff.
Thank you.
And another celebrity superstar on the Central Coast, far end, Jared Hurst, the CEO of Service Australia, locally here. Welcome, Jared. So these shows are about building confidence and having the confidence to take action. At the end of every show, we will wrap up with actions that you can take and implement. Stronger Than My Excuses is on YouTube, so please subscribe, like, so you will see more action from Stronger Than My Excuses show. Let's get into our discussion. Michael, I'm going to start with you. So, over the course of the last 2.5 years, I think everybody in this room has probably had countless Zoom meetings every day. They're sick of Zoom or team meetings. We may have hologram meetings in the future. There's so many things that we're unsure of in the future. So for you working in the IT space, and particularly this cybersecurity space, which is so important, what are some of these main risks that you think people don't yet understand?
Well, it's funny you say hologram technology, because I remember back when I was in uni, they were talking about broadcasting the 2020 Olympics in hologram. Don't think we got there though, somehow. But for the last 12 months, I've been running the Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect initiative here on the Central Coast, thanks to a federal government grant. And what that was tasked with was bringing cybersecurity awareness to small and medium businesses here on the coast. And what we found was, and I'm going to quote The Simpsons here, and that is that what businesses don't know about cybersecurity could fill a warehouse. And that's kind of true, but I'll also quote 80s Saturday morning cartoons and say knowing is half the battle. So if I were to say that 91% of all cyber attacks start with email, you would really want to be able to start securing your email a bit better, wouldn't you? With the move to the cloud as well, we're starting to see a big shift to the cloud with the hybrid workplace that many businesses are employing at the moment, which shifts a lot of the cybersecurity heavy work, I guess, to the service provider. I'm sure Jared would probably be able to comment on that. They're probably under attack all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. But it still doesn't take away the requirement for small and medium businesses to be able to practice cybersecurity best practices within their own walls. And it's all about, if you implement best practices or basics of best practices, you're going to elevate yourself above the low-hanging fruit, which is what hackers prey on.
Thank you, Michael. Geoff, I'm going to go next to you. You're working in big business, Johnson & Johnson, but these sort of things are happening with all businesses, big, small. whatever. So from your perspective, what does happen if businesses don't keep up with digital technology?
Yeah, look, I think we've got a big problem around complacency. And especially the larger the organisation, sometimes the more complacent they are, they become a little bit ignorant to what's happening outside of their organisation as to how they should change. If you think about Blockbuster ignoring Netflix, how did that go? Or if you think about Borders ignoring the rise of ebooks, it didn't go very well for those companies. And I think if you're an organisation that's complacent in the way that you're thinking and the way that you're working, you've got a bit of a challenge ahead. And that really comes in not just from a business operations point of view, but also the technology that you're using. You know, when COVID first hit and people were sent home, if you didn't have the technology to allow your employees to work from home, you were closing your doors until you were ready to do that. So being ready to be flexible and avoid all of those risks is incredibly important now, but also as we start going into the future as well.
Absolutely, fantastic points. Jackie, NBN, connecting people. What happens if people aren't connected nowadays?
I guess you can start to see it as you realize how important it is when you actually don't have connectivity. And to address the elephant in the room of this week in world events, it's interesting to see that it's not surprising for us in the business, but it's interesting to see for everybody else is that the first things that people cut off before an invasion is communication and internet infrastructure. And that's because it is essential. It's an essential infrastructure, and it can seriously take down whether it's a business, a network, a country. It's very important. So you don't realize how important that is until it's actually gone. So without it, we wouldn't have done as well as we did in the past 2 years. We had in March 2020 and sustained since then, we've had a 76% increase in usage in households because people are working remote. So you can really see how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely. That connectivity and breaking that is an attack point. Thank you. Jared, the cloud's been mentioned. Michael's mentioned that that's your business. So the cloud, is that an issue for some businesses? What are you seeing?
I don't think it's an issue. I think it's an issue if they're not sort of planning to move to that hybrid workspace now. We've had 2 years of sort of a hybrid working environment, but I think the future is going to be that. But connectivity is super important. I think that has to be number one before you even think about doing a hybrid workspace. How are people going to connect in? How are they going to do those Zoom meetings? What if we do go down the path of holograms at one point? That's going to require a lot of data. So the cloud and data is getting bigger every day, as is security. And I think that they are all things that we need to start thinking about, not just, I need to be in the cloud. It's like, well, what is the future of my business being in the cloud? Is it full cloud, half cloud? And how am I going to connect to my customers and employees really? So I think there's a huge thing that people need to think about is the connectivity, security, and then planning for the next 5 years, not just 12 months. That'd be my take on it.
Yeah, I think that that last point sort of covers so much of that planning. It's really around, if you think about the period of time we've just been in, so many people are being stuck in the now, and for good reason. We haven't dealt with things like that, but to not have an eye on the future game is a very risky approach to have, and that's been proven with some businesses. And that's effectively what you're saying, that planning forward and looking ahead at security, digital technology, connectivity, and how the infrastructure of your business sits.
Yeah, just on that, we're now, being in cloud, we're cleaning up sort of the last 2 years of what we call technical debt, which is where companies have gone, I need to be on the cloud really fast. And sort of they move to the cloud, and that's fine because it's a temporary solution, but that's actually creating more problems for their staffing and customers and whatnot moving forward. So just doing it right now, I think is the most important thing.
Jared, I'm going to stick with you. So you supposedly know a bit more about the cloud than most of us in this room. That's your business. So we're looking ahead, say, the next 5 years. So, understanding the cloud, what are the outcomes that people for future of business in our digital world? What do they need to be aware of? What are these outcomes?
Making sure, again, security and having enough resources, the outcomes of what does your business need? You might be a small business running a cafe. Do you need to be on the cloud? I would say yes, but how you do that needs to be thought about, not just I need to be on the cloud. A lot of people have a fear of missing out of being on the cloud, but I think that it's really important to think about how you're going to work from home. We were talking earlier, like connectivity from home, connectivity from your business premises. The outcomes of what you want needs to be thought about very, very, long and hard, I think, before you just jump onto the cloud. Cloud's a great space, don't get me wrong, but it can be daunting for a lot of people. And there's businesses out there that are willing to help. And as Michael said, there's a shift now towards the online where people are willing to help you and to do all that security for you. I think that's something that people should be taking advantage of.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, mate. Jackie, in this lens of yours of connectivity, what's that sort of future looking out this 5 years? What do businesses need to start to think about and be aware of around connectivity?
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to, I always hear the hybrid workforce all the time. And to me, the word hybrid just sounds to me like a transition of what is actually just becoming normal. We're starting to see things like even on job ads, even what we would call the dinosaur organizations who would never allow you to even work from home, even if you're sick one day or for some reason you can't be in the office. And now they're having to put as a default that this job is in person, because the new baseline, the new default is that it's remote and it's hybrid. And it's not even hybrid anymore. It's now that is the normal. I think what businesses need to realize is that, like Jared is saying, it's 5 years down the road. I have a planning background, so what I look at is if you have a logistics business with trucking, you would place your business near something like the M1. Whereas if you have a business that needs to transition to something more digital, you need to find an area that has very high speed connectivity and has a path to having even higher connectivity in the future. So it's those types of things we have to take into consideration. It's no longer just about roads and water and buildings, it's also the connectivity, because the digital infrastructure is innovation and infrastructure. And that's what we need to remember.
Jared, very quickly, do you happen to know anywhere locally that has very fast internet?
Yes.
Where?
The Nexus up here.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's actually quite
up the road.
What Jackie's saying, far too many people don't think about that, and then they might build an office, we were talking earlier, but out in the middle of nowhere, and then expect the connectivity to be there. So I think that if you want to run this hybrid style business, I hate that word as well, you have to be somewhere where there's a lot of connectivity.
Michael, to you, mate, cybersecurity lens, this ethical hacker tag that you wear so proudly. What's this next 5 years? What do people need to be looking out for, these outcomes that they need to control?
Well, it's really difficult to predict what's happening, but I think really cybersecurity issues are not going to ever go away. Whereas flash forward to today, we have stable internet because of the NBN. Even better if you have fibre to the premise, and we have a much better infrastructure in place to be able to go to the cloud. So instead of buying network infrastructure and servers and other bits and pieces that you need to run a business internally, all you need now is an internet connection, a good business grade PC, and a cloud subscription, and you can do everything that you ever could do before, but without having to own the infrastructure. And turning that over every 3 to 5 years for a small business, it might cost you somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000 to maintain. It's a real game changer to be able to just move your infrastructure out to the cloud. So really, I think with that, it does bring an extra layer of cybersecurity awareness that you need to be. You're shifting some of the awareness and technical, defences out to the cloud providers, but there's also, you need to be able to bolster your defences internally as well. So.
Absolutely. Geoff, digital transformation lens. So what are businesses looking for outcomes over the next 5 years that we need to be aware of?
Look, I think the 5 year thing is a very scary metric to put on things now too, because you don't know when the next COVID or the next something else will roll in and transform things again. But, I think what we're really looking to drive now is flexibility. And we always hear the term agile or pivot, but you need to be an organisation that can pick up and change, whether that's change strategic direction or even just change the way that you work at a click of a finger. And I think, for me, for example, this morning, sitting in the car park on my laptop, checking my emails, doing some work. Before the curtains open up, I'm on my phone. I'm able to still work. My office is wherever I am. And I think that's only created from an organisation that thinks about how people should work in the future. So I think there's going to be a lot of change around how we become more agile, more flexible, and it's bringing in the technology that allows us to do that, how we can engage with people differently, because it's not always going to be as good as face-to-face, as much as we always want that. And with people working remote and people working in different locations, your office is wherever you are. So how are you going to engage with customers, with colleagues? It's not always going to be through Zoom as much as we don't like it. It could be through holograms or whatever else in the future. But how do you start building that capacity and that capability early is extremely important.
It sounds like to me what we're saying, and I didn't hear this word specifically, but I'm hearing curiosity come out. If people in business are curious about things, they're going to ask questions, they're going to seek information, and it's going to lead them to the opportunity to find out some of these solutions and talk with the experts, which some of you guys are on this panel today and will be very helpful in those scenarios.
And look, and just on that too, I think it's fascinating that, I come from an IT background, and I remember years ago, our managing director coming downstairs with an iPad, and he said, "Geoff, make this work for our work email." I said, "That's a toy. We aren't setting up corporate email on that. We use Blackberries." And that's changed. So, I think this curiosity usually actually comes from the people that we work with or the people that we live with. Our kids are going to inspire us in our workplaces based on the tools that they're using. The kids playing Minecraft today are actually forming what's going to be the metaverse of the future when you start to think about it. So we need to get inspiration from all people and not sort of put our lenses on sometimes.
Absolutely. Was it ever possible to take a selfie on a BlackBerry?
You know what?
That's probably why they failed.
Yes. It took them years.
Love selfies.
It took them years before they had a front-facing camera. You're right.
All right. So we're going to look at some of these things you guys have just mentioned. How do we put these things into action? Jackie, let's start with you from this connectivity. What do businesses need to take and put into action from some of these things we just talked about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what it comes down to is it's all about addressing issues, like what Jared was mentioning before, Geoff. It's you only pick up technology when you actually want to solve a problem. It's not a novelty that you pick up an iPad and say, how are we going to implement this into our business now? There's companies in the Central Coast right now that when they go and they build advanced manufacturing facilities, in their production line, they're putting in cameras and they're putting in sensors so that because they can't get the staff in to do 24/7 operations, they're running it with just one shift, but they're not shutting down the factory. So these sensors will pick up a fault, almost like as if your smoke detector in your house would. And it signals to someone on their phone who happens to be at home, a supervisor, and it tells them that there's a fault on the line. They can access remotely with videos directly on that line and see if it's just a false alarm that, like your smoke detector, it's you just accidentally burnt something in the oven, or if there's a real full-fledged fire and they should go in. So it's things like that are changing. But again, it's always back to it's addressing an issue and a problem that businesses are facing, and then there's a tech solution. It shouldn't be done in reverse. But that's what we're seeing around the businesses in every single sector. Some of the most surprising businesses that we're finding that are picking up our highest speed tiers are things like funeral homes, which you go, why on earth would a funeral home be picking up high-speed internet? It's because autopsy files are enormous and they have to transfer them all the time. Or we have any business in the planning and architectural engineering firm, AutoCAD files are huge. To be able to work from home and upload those if you're going to work remotely on the cloud. Even at a residential, the speed tiers are getting higher and higher every month that we go forward. So we're seeing a lot of change that way. But again, it's always you have an issue and then you address the issue with tech. It's not in reverse. Don't show up with an iPad and tell me I'm going to need this and use that.
Thanks, Jackie. So, Michael, from the IT and security side, what's your view on how we achieve these outcomes in this space?
Yeah, look, businesses need to take it upon themselves to be more cyber aware. And I'm not talking about just looking at the evening news and seeing what's reported, because typically that's not going to be focusing on small, medium business. That's going to be the Fortune 500, 100 companies that get hacked. So what businesses really need to be doing is engaging with the cybersecurity community and becoming more upskilled within their business. And to do that, you need to be really getting onto the dark web and looking at hacking forums. You need to be subscribing to security podcasts. You need to be part of the cybersecurity community. Now, if you can't do that, you need to be engaging a person, employing a person or a company that is doing that, to have that proactive approach to securing your business. I like to think of IT companies and dentists in the same way, where with a dentist, they know their way around your mouth. And But as soon as you need braces, they will get you to go see an orthodontist. And it's kind of similar with an IT company. You have the guy who might be able to come in, set up your network and get it all humming, but is it actually secure? And that's where you need to be able to engage a cybersecurity professional or a professional company to come in to ensure that your solution is secure. And it's all about doing it periodically as well. So coming in, because it's not just one and done. Cybersecurity is changing all the time. So a constant review of your cybersecurity defences is required. And the federal government has what they call the Essential 8, and a part of that they say that you should be looking at your cybersecurity defences every 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Geoff, from that digital transformation perspective, how do we achieve some of these outcomes?
Look, I think the big thing is to start. I think a lot of organisations out there will say, I'm not a digital organisation, I'm a fish and chip shop, or I'm a tradie. Technology is not for me. But the reality is that technology is going to impact every organisation if it hasn't already. And that fish and chip shop that had to close during COVID had a choice of either keeping those doors shut or jumping onto Uber Eats as a platform to keep their business running. And the tradie down the road could be doing online quotes and could be discovered through social media better as well. So, for me, we're in the process of renovating a house, and the way that we actually tell whether the tradie that we want to hire is good or not is by looking at their Instagram page. If they don't have one, they don't exist. So I think every organisation, doesn't matter how big or small you are, your digital footprint needs to expand. You need to be aware so you're accessible by customers, so that people will actually discover you and find out the great work that you do. But behind the scenes, you need to be lifting your digital acumen as well, not just from a cybersecurity point of view, but also thinking about how am I going to operate as an organisation to be more effective and more efficient than my competition, because there's plenty of plumbers out there. How do I find the right one, and how do I know which one's going to do the best job? That's usually through digital means. So I think that's something business need to take on board. The other piece too, I travelled to be here a little bit today, and before I came, I was looking on Google Maps for a cafe before I get here. If you don't exist on Google Maps, I don't know about your business. And when I go to your listing on Google Maps, if you don't have a website that I can look at your menu, look at photographs of the food that you serve, how am I going to want to come to your premises? So it's every business. I don't think anyone can sit back and say, digital and tech isn't for me, I focus on my stream. You've got to broaden that horizon a bit more now.
Absolutely. I had no idea you're an Instagram fanboy.
Have to be.
I don't have Instagram, so...
Jared, you're obviously behind the times, Jared, but Jared, where does the cloud fit in all this as far as actions?
I think that's really important. What we've all said here is that it's not just being a hybrid workforce or doing it now. It's about, you see cafes that have gone online. That's the cloud. That is part of the cloud, and a lot of people don't think about that. Getting onto Google Maps is part of the cloud. Instagram is all cloud. I think it's, as Jackie said, it's important to not think about it right now and react. You have to be ahead of it. I saw far too many people come to us, and I'm talking doctors, surgeries, sort of radiologists, all those people coming to us during the pandemic, scrambling to get onto the cloud or have some form of digital set up inside their business. Security was such a big thing for them that put them back weeks, where their doors were closed. Doctors trying to work from home was a big thing, and it's something that was really hard for us to sort of say to people, well, we can only do so much to help you now, but what if that happens again? Like, what if the floods sort of come down here and we're helping people in Queensland now? So it's just one thing after another. It's not just, the pandemic's over, I can just move on. It's, now we're helping people in Queensland move to, full working from home, but out of Queensland. So I think it's really important that people think about not just the cloud being, a bunch of servers. It is honestly like Google Maps, whether or not you're a small business, Instagram, that is all cloud, and that is all technology that businesses need to act on now, and not just think, I'll move to it when it's sort of a thing. It is a big thing, and it's where everyone goes now. So.
Yeah, my takeaway from the four of you across these actions is that it really fits into this risk management process, doesn't it? If you think about your business and the risk to your business, what's going to stop your business, then that's going to get you to ask the right questions and to seek some solutions and take some action to solve those problems. So, well done, guys. Final question. One word, that's all we want from you guys. So thinking about these actions and how you described it, Geoff, we'll start with you. What's this one word that would sum up everything you've just said in 10,000 words?
Begin.
Yes.
Thank you. Jackie?
I'm going to go further and say accelerate.
Jared?
Plan. Now. Those 2 words. Plan.
Yeah. We've just cut now out. Michael?
I'd say knowing, as in knowing is half the battle.
Great words, thoughtful words. Everyone, thank you very much for your insights today on this panel. It's been fascinating. I've certainly learned a lot. I'm sure our live studio audience has learned a lot as well. Again, you can watch us through YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe to the Stronger Than My Excuses channel so you can see more of these panel conversations in the future. Once again, thank you to Michael Trimblett, Jackie Svedas, Geoff Quattromani, Jared Hurst, far end. I'm Brendan Rogers, founder of The Culture of Things. This has been the Stronger Than My Excuses show. Thanks for coming, everyone. See you next time.